Blender is quite an intriguing software, and in Blender it is possible to achieve the same results using different methods. And this is one of many reasons why I think that Blender is so bad at being bad. In this video, I'll be rendering a background image for my architectural model in two different methods. In method 1, I set up the background for my scene by going to my render settings in the properties panel to turn on my transparent background. Then I can go to my camera settings to add a background image. I tick this to add a background image. I need a really cool HDRI image for my background. I can choose this. And here we can see the scale and offset properties of the image. Then I can go to my compositing to edit properties. I can use backdrop and have my nodes as shown with the render layer, background image, scale, alpha over, and so on. I can connect my alpha over to my viewer and composite. And as you can see, then I can connect the scale to the alpha over and the other scale to the scale and the background image to the first scale. When I connect my render layer to the second port of the alpha hover node, you can see the result as shown. I think the scene looks cool. However, I need to make some adjustments on the scales to ensure that the scale settings I have in the compositor aligns with what I have in my camera settings for the background image. I need to adjust the offset to be what is in my compositor, but first, let's see what we have when we switch to the camera view. I can use the shortcut numpad 0 to see the camera view, and we can see that the alignment of the camera doesn't match with what we have in the compositor, and this could cause discrepancies to emerge in my final rendered image. Therefore, I need to ensure that the properties in the compositor and the camera settings match. I can go back to my compositor to adjust the settings by bringing my 3D viewport down here to observe my edits. Then I want my camera view activated so that I can see the results of my edits. We have the scale render size to be set to stretch, so I ensure that the camera is also set to stretch. I also ensure that my opacity is set to 0.5. I think it comes by default as 1. The scale for both the X and Y axis can be clamped together under the camera settings as 4. In order to match the properties of the relative scale in the compositor, I can adjust the offset to match the render size scale. As you can see here, it is 0.3. So for the X axis, I can go on to the camera settings to change that to 0.3. And in the y-axis, we have minus 0.1 right here. So I can go back to the camera settings to increase the value of my offset on the y-axis. Then I have something like this right here. Now, if I make a final render, this is exactly what would be rendered on my scene. I think I have everything set, and I can go back to my layout to see what I have and render my model with the new background. I can use F12 button or simply go up here to select render image. This is my rendered image and I think it's quite cool. I think I would like to save it. I can save it as house 1. Now this is good. There is another way to go about this, maybe 10 different ways, but I'm just going to be showing one more to get on with it. I first need to turn off my background image. I go into my compositor to disconnect nodes. And I like to add a plane in form of a background image. But before I add the background image, I need to ensure that my viewport is set to a defined angle so that the reference of my image can be on a defined orientation that will be easy to adjust. I used my numpad 5. In edit mode, I can snap object selection to the 3D cursor so that my background image can be snapped to my 3D cursor. Now I can go ahead to add the background image to the scene. I can bring in my HDRI. I will be using the same HDRI. That's the image right there. And now I'm free to change my viewport with no consequence on the orientation of my imported background image. The background image is at 0 degrees and that's easy to work with. I can adjust the rotation scale and location of the image for it to stand perfectly behind my model as a background. I can go on to convert the image background into a mesh. I think I'm okay with the properties here and we'll leave them as default. After converting the image into a mesh, I can view the image as a plane in front of my model as shown. We are in the solid view, and in order to view the image, we need to toggle to the render viewport. But first, I need to move the object from the front of my model to the back of my model. Then I can scale it up and keep adjusting as I see fit. Now, I can go to my render viewport to see what I have. It seems upside down, so I will go on to adjust the rotation along the x-axis by 180 degrees. I can also move it up a little bit along the z-axis. I need to adjust it to my camera view to see what my render will look like. I need to move the background along the y-axis to cover the space behind my model and fill the entirety of the camera view. Let's deselect plane to see the background image. It looks cool, but I think it can look a hell lot better. I can achieve that by making the scene a little bit brighter by turning up the brightness of the world settings. I think the scene looks a lot better now. I don't feel so comfortable with this, and I think it can be amended by moving the plane further back as shown. I can examine the result in my camera view. And then scale the plane further up. I can keep adjusting the location and scale of the plane until I'm satisfied with the outcome in the camera view. I think I'm okay with this for now and can go to my render viewport to see the result. I think this looks okay for me. So I can go ahead to render the model. However, before I render, I want to go back to my compositor to connect the rendered layer node to my viewer and also to my composite node. I'll then disable the backdrop and use nodes to deactivate compositing the scene into my rendered model. I can now return to my layout. I'm good to go and can render the scene now. I think there's a chance it looks even better than the first one. Here is the final render, and I think it looks just as cool as the first one we did, and arguably even better. I can also save this. Let me save it as house 2. I can go on to compare both rendered images. This is my house 1, which isn't bad, but a bit dark and needed some tweaks in the compositor to look much better. Then I have the house 2, whose background seemed much easier to make but appears brighter and overall better looking, at least in my opinion. And while the process it took to create the first render seemed like a more professional approach by comparison, Blender makes it easy to choose alternative means for rendering simpler models. And I think pretty much most methods in Blender have alternative means to accomplish the same results, with some being a little bit more complex than the other, in such a way that it's hard to tell the difference in the rendering of simple models and small projects. These and many more are the reasons why I think that Blender is so bad at being bad. I mean, it's a good stuff, and thanks to those behind the scene who work tirelessly to make this open source software what it is today. This is it for today. You can let us know what you think in the comment section and let's interact. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more contents like this. Thanks for watching and bye for now.